Truth is not what I will want to call neutral. Truth is not something that you have to edit to reflect your thought process and how you want the general public to look at things. All right, and that has been the story in COVID-19 by this government. Having said that, the issue of going legal, we must support it, and we will continue to support the whole issue of COVID-19, given the adverse effects that I call it the jab. That was my word. And I was called, as you remember, by the Prime Minister then, a social media doctor. But what we were saying within the trade union movement, along with other like-minded persons, doctors, etc., is that you cannot force someone to take an injection for them to go to work or for them to work, and do not accept liability for forcing someone to take an injection. And I am hoping that with this court case, a lot of information going to come out in the public domain, where a lot of issues are going to be made clear, because a lot of issues have been swept under the carpet. And as you rightly say, as I speak in 2025, there are still many people who are affected by the injection that they were forced to take, either to keep their work or to go to work. All right, private companies mandated that they must take it without accepting any kind of liability. And as you rightly say, we see what will have happened to this young lady, which is rather unfortunate. And she was one of the persons who took the injection, as was part of the press conference that we were forced to have under the banner of the National Trade Union Center, because there was denial from the minister and from the chief medical officer and his team within the context of what was really happening and how people were being affected adversely by this injection. So I say hats off to the lawyers, and hats off to everybody who is part of this, of which NATUC is part of, because the truth must be told.
Let me also say that there are other CARICOM countries that are looking on to see how this thing is going to unfold, because there are other areas among the CARICOM region that have the similar situations. The thing about it is that medical documentation submitted with the claim confirms that Alicia was in good health with no known illnesses or medical complaints prior to receiving the COVID-19 shot. Now that's very important for people to understand. So, you know, for those who wait and say, well, you know, there's no connection, there's nothing there to link the shot to what transpired, and of course, with the end result being her death. When this is now in the public domain, I mean, it's moving forward. What are some of the things that you're hearing? Because, you know, we're hearing people say now, the company, of course, that manufactured and made this vaccine that you're talking about is a global company. It doesn't want to admit to any wrongdoings, of course. It doesn't believe that its product is a liability. I mean, you're taking on quite a big task here. What do you expect the end results to be?
First, let me say, when people who are standing up for justice stay silent, they are complicit in all the wrongs that is happening. And as you rightly said, that this issue is a global issue, because I have no doubt in my mind that the shutting down of the global economy is the first time that happened in the world, and we must understand that. That was, in my humble view, that is my analysis, which I'm subject to, was an attempt to reshape the global economy. But they bounced their head. Why? Because there were people who was resisting taking the vaccine. And I want you to remember Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM government came back into power riding the wave that they were best suited to handle COVID-19 because the other side had no clue in the context of what they are doing. And I think we must never forget that because if you look at where we were ranked in terms of death per capita, we were ahead of the curve. And therefore, something radically went wrong with our system. And I think it is absolutely necessary that that plays out in the courthouse, in the public court opinions, so that we must never make that kind of mistake again in Trinidad and Tobago. And I am hoping that we will have a medical bill of health that will protect the citizenry if and when you are forced or asked due to the health rules and regulations to take a vaccine. Because workers and human being lives, in my humble view, must give priority over a vaccine. Although there's a school of thought that I'm no, if I'm dying to save the many, that is not an issue. I don't share that particular view because we are all human beings and lives must be respected. And if you tell somebody that you have to take the vaccine, the government must accept liability for whatever happens for forcing anyone to take the vaccine, be it under the healthcare, be it under WHO, be it under PAHO, because you know they are coming up with new measures to pause this question of vaccination.
Well, and that was my next question, because the pre-action protocol letter argues that the state created a system of cohesion in Trinidad and Tobago, of course, to compel the COVID-19 vaccination, circumventing informed consent, meaning, of course, there was no room for citizens to say, listen, you know, our rights and what have you. But what do you say to people who weigh in on this and say, listen, in the heights of a pandemic, all of that has to be circumvented. All of that has to be sidelined because the priority here is to save lives.
All right, let me answer this from a historical narrative and antecedent. This is not the first time that we had vaccinations, you know. It's not the first time. But this is the first time that a vaccination evolved within a 6 months period. One, two, the pharmaceutical companies who made billions of dollars, they were exempted from any form of liability as a consequence of making that vaccines, the various vaccines. And that is something that we have to pay attention to. Who gives WHO or PAHO the rights to make those kinds of decisions on behalf of the global citizenry? And we're talking here about democracy. My rights must be respected as a human being because a life is critical. One life is one life too much. And in Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know if the population was aware. All right, but we had over 2,000 deaths over the period in Trinidad and Tobago. But more importantly, if you look at some of the studies that was done for COVID-19 mortality paradox, where they did studies with United States versus Africa, you would have found out that the African nations who they thought would have had an uptick more than anybody in the context of vaccination did not have it. Why? Because they use medicine, they use medication that they were aware of, which helped them, but the EU and Dr. Ponchi and these people and them insisted that we had to use those vaccinations, but there were other medications that you could have used that was working pretty well against vaccines, against the pandemic rather. And those are issues you cannot deny as citizens Those are facts. So those who want to, dabble in that kind of concept, it is rather unfortunate that you have people thinking that way when lies are important. And let me end by saying, with the first point that I was making, the vaccination that we had before went through rigorous tests. It went through rigorous tests. I took vaccines for malaria and all these kinds of things years ago, chicken pox when we were children. But how long did that vaccination took? What was the kind of means test that was done before it was administered to the population? We did not see that in COVID-19. Right, with this pandemic, the global world was shut down by who and why it was shut down. And I want people to understand, go and see the statistics in Norway. Norway did not shut down their schools. Norway put a protocol in place, and Norway was the best run and least affected European countries because of the system that they put in place. And those are fundamental questions that we have to ask. Why it is that this government did not do rather the due diligence and the due test to ensure that the safety and the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago becomes more important than just following the pharmaceutical industry, who was making profits and who was in league with certain people to make profits. But the safety and the question of liability went through the window to protect these pharmaceutical companies.
And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. A lot of it was done basically in secrecy. I mean, we're still talking, we're still hearing about non-disclosure agreements. So there was definitely a lack of transparency. You didn't have a choice as to perhaps which one, based on your own personal research, would have been the best vaccine. And all of these things were not forthcoming at that time. And again, it was basically about selling to the people that this is a life-saving procedure. You have to take it, otherwise you wouldn't be able to work, you wouldn't be able to function, you wouldn't be able to earn a dollar, and what have you. But in all of, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you are hitting the nail on the proverbial head. And you see, we need to begin to start to think in our society. We need, God give us an innate ability to think. It is within us, because I am because you are. And he made us in his own image and likeness. For those who talk about Christianity, I talk about African spirituality. But if you want to talk about Christianity, he made us in his own image and likeness. And then therefore, that should tell you something about human beings. And it's rather unfortunate that this has happened. And the government is aware, because I made the statement when we had the press conference, and I called on the government and the minister to have a heart, because we had young people from 17 years to 23 years sitting in front of us who were healthy and who were forced to take the vaccine. And then don't ever forget that we had what you call a position in Trinidad, where I call it a COVID-19 apartheid passport, in order for you to go to certain places. All right, and then if the employer or the business place didn't insist to ensure that the person who came into his business establishment was unvaccinated, he could have been charged 50,000. And I'm also the patriot, $5,000. This government passed that law, and everybody failed to forget that when that law was passed, it was the zonal law. All right? Okay?
And you're right. And
you know what happened?
I agree with you.
There was an immediate uptick in the question of the spread of COVID-19, and there
Yeah.
were questions that was being asked because they said, if you took the vaccination, you cannot spread COVID, which has been proven internationally by medical research. This is not Michael and Izette speaking, that was one of the biggest lies perpetrated against the population of Trinidad and Tobago, the wider Caribbean, because I will put on the Caribbean at none. Because we were following a narrative
Right.
coming from WHO, PAHO, and all these other institutions who were in league with big pharmaceutical
And
industries.
I think, Mr. Andy said that's what we saw. We saw Big Pharma having quite a field day with this. Now you have, on the eve of an election, you have the opposition leader making it quite clear that once she gets into office, there will be a commission of inquiry into all that took place. And I think that's only fair because many people, you hear the stories, they dropped off their family members because we were told that we couldn't come in. We could only drop off those who, of course, were affected by the virus. And then later on to get a phone call, if you were lucky, to get a phone call to say, well, your uncle or your nephew or your aunt or your mother unfortunately did not make it. If you were lucky, you were going to get that call. If not, you had to make calls. I know a family that I was helping trying to make calls to find out, and finally I had to reach somebody who was of a certain status in the health authority just to hear that on a list that person is no longer among the living. And then you hear reports about people who were in those rooms where they were treating those COVID patients that may not have had much training, didn't have an understanding of using the equipment. I mean, so much things went bad. What say you about this commission of inquiry? Because I personally would like to know.
No, listen, if I'm supporting the question of going to the court to bring justice to the family of this young lady, Alicia Tiberan Francis, all that I am saying requires an investigation. Because from a trade union working class perspective and from a truth perspective, right, one must understand what went wrong, where we went wrong, so that we would not make that mistake and perpetrate that lie of coercion without liability against the population of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean region, and may I say globally. And just for the records, you can Google it. Trinidad and Tobago COVID death rate of approximately 2,876 deaths per million people is notably higher than the global average and places it amongst countries with elevated mortality rates. That's a fact. It is not Michael and he said is saying that, and then therefore there is a moral, legal, spiritual, Christian, whatever you want to call it, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, responsibility to get to the bottom of this in a democratic way and in an independent way, so that the evidence and the truth will come out. Because as I say, I know people who took the vaccine, they cannot even go in a gas station or pass by KFC because the scent of the gas and the KFC chicken and the smell affect them and get them nausea. They never used to suffer that. Those are people who were 30 years, 35, 40 years, and when they took the vaccine, that started to happen. That cannot be a coincidence, and nobody can make me believe that is a coincidence. Those are, I know people who have blood clots, right? Who when I'm native, calling them.
That's right.
The flow was so excessive, and when they go to doctor wasn't recording that for whatever reason.
Someone has to give us the answers. You're right. You have women whose cycles have definitely been off track since this entire episode. again, as I tell you, I know young men, young people who had to
Hello.
be,
But look at how,
pacemakers had to be
yeah,
inserted.
but look at how much healthy athletes in America who dropped down.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, those are facts. We were told, right, and this government play into the hands of the bigger body by saying, and I remember the statement by the government because of technological advancement, we are able within 6 months, to get a vaccine. And I ask the question, well, if that is so good, and we have that kind of technology, why can't we find a cure for cancer within 6 months? Why can't we find a cure for diabetes within the 6 months period? And I want the population to remember that this government tried to force public servants, right, that if you do not go and take your vaccine, you will be, what's the word that was used for long, which is an American term to say that you will be laid off for a period of time. That's a fact. And the trade union movement had to stand up against it because they were telling you to go and take the vaccine, but the population who was coming to interface with you, there was no mechanism to see whether or not they took the vaccine. I mean, what kind of madness and insensibility and insensitivity is that?
Mr. Annie said, I think I speak for all right-thinking citizens. We really and truly need to get to the bottom of this. We need to have a commission of inquiry. There are too many reports, too many stories out there that you can hear from people who have had some very adverse effects to what took place and what transpired. Young people, middle-aged people, women, and of course the entire cycle. There's been reports of hair loss. You name it, all of these things.
Yes.
Those
Oh
people
my
who have
God.
become visually impaired, hearing it, all of these things. And I think it's only fair that we get to the bottom of this because no one protected us. No one, we had family members who were locked out. They were locked out of the country. They couldn't come in.
That was the last point that I was going to make. Trinidad and Tobago got a bad report again as it relates to that lockout and ethical analysis of Trinidad and Tobago COVID-19 border closure by El Budi Narayan Singh, and I have the report in front of me, and the report is a telling indictment against this government by how they went about treating our citizens.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for taking time out this
evening. If I may quickly, I am hoping that we'll be able to have a conversation because there's this misrepresentation over the 12% that this government refused to give dock workers when we sign a legitimate collective agreement for 12% with
but you have those who are sneaking off to take 4 and 5%.
No. Well, hello, I am not those. Siemens Union, and I'm making a public statement that the government made the biggest mistake, right, to challenge and to pick a fight with Siemens Union, and they will pay the ultimate price. Because you cannot tell me that our minister at the time, Cadiz, and his permanent secretary and other members signed a legitimate agreement, and you said that we were supposed to go to CPO, but the same government comes now, and I'm signed with the estate police and the senior management of the Port Authority without no CPO and give them increases, but you do not want to give dock workers their legitimate increase, and we will continue to fight that war. All right, and then we are hoping that we wouldn't have to continue to fight such a war after the 28th of April.
And let me ask you, all of these affected workers that you represent, those who feel that they've been neglected and disrespected by the current administration, are they going to be out in their numbers to vote tomorrow?
Well, I hope that good sense will prevail, because the only way that truth is going to prevail, and honesty and dignity and respect, is when each individual stand up for what is right. Let me repeat it. That is the only way. You cannot hide. This has nothing to do with ethnicity, race, or political party for dock workers. This has to do with a deliberate attempt by this government to prevent our legitimate agreement for dock workers going back since 2015. But they run quick in an election period to even pay 50% of the back pay to the senior management staff because they say they want to do that before elections. I mean, and then you don't care about the workers who are the movers and the heartbeat of the operations in the port. Come on, you want to give us 002 when we negotiated at 12%? Come on. So I am making a call to dock workers and to all those who cherish the right to collective bargaining, because we didn't have collective bargaining. The agreements was executed in Parliament, which is a violation of the convention governing collective bargaining, which this government signed for. This proposals was made on political platforms. That is not negotiation. It's a violation of the tripartitism that this government signed to, and people must pay attention. And let me make it clear, when I'm given the opportunity, and I hope you invite me back, I will show them that there's a new economic model that speaks to job-led growth and wage-led growth. And those countries that follow that came out of the economic crisis faster than those who follow. And then finally, I want them, just let me make this point quickly. I want them to take a look at Dubai when they started to drill oil. I want them to take a look at Trinidad because we started in 1850 something, and then we started to do the drilling in 1917. Look at where Dubai is in terms of an economy and a country, right? As opposed to Trinidad and Tobago, who was drilling oil long before Dubai. Trinidad and Tobago, think. That is all I have to say.
Thank you
for this opportunity. I do appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Yep. And they that was
all right, and blessings again, and may our ancestors and the universal divine master guide us and protect us in all that.
And all I'm asking is that when we finish, please start making the calls to all of those people, because you made it quite clear it's an insult with 0001 and all of that, when in fact it was agreed upon for 12%. Please ensure that they are all ready to head to the polls tomorrow.
Yeah, well, there's a few listening, right? There's a few listening, and then we have been having our discussions. I've been putting the facts as a president and as a citizen and as someone who believes in the truth and democracy. I've been putting the facts on the table, and I've asked them wait, because there's a saying we don't have no money to pay it because that is baloney, right? That is because the government do not see workers being able to maintain their living standard, to be able to maintain their purchasing power, because the workers still living on 2014 salaries, and the minister had the gumption to go and say he wish SWW would have signed that agreement 002. And I made it clear to the government that we're not prepared to sign that, given the negotiations and the agreement that was signed between the Port Authority and Siemens Union, which is a legitimate agreement. They could say what they want, because my recognition and certification is with the Port Authority and not the CPO, and it was demonstrated when the estate police and the senior management went this week and signed an agreement not through the CPO. I will say no more on that point. Who have sense? And who have eyes, let them see, and who have ears, let them hear.
Thank you so much again, Mr.
Okay, brother.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Hey, take a short break. We'll be right back. Thank you.
The Excel brand delivers quality service.
I would recommend Omega Excel to everyone.
Take care of yourself, take care of your health. It's Omega Excel.
If Omega Excel works for me, it will work for you.
Over a period of time, I started feeling stronger in my knee where I could add more pressure.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water taps, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland. When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss. Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 King Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Limiting chronic inflammation is important for so many conditions that occur.
I had a lot of pain 4 years ago.
I used to have pain in my knees and my hip.
Taking it for arthritis.
Omega Excel saved my life.
Then I started to realize, well, hey, I could use my hands, I don't have any pain.
All in all, I am pleased to say that the Omega Excel has worked.
Thank you, Master Control. Thank you so much. The eve of the general election. That's right. And we've got some hours to go before the polls open. So we are looking at a lot of the issues that are being bandied about, especially on the platform. Have with us a man who is no stranger to the Observer. Let me say a pleasant good evening to former Minister of Energy, Kevin Ramnarang. Good evening and welcome once again, sir.
Good evening, Mikey, and good evening to your listening audience.
Well listen, I need you to clear this up for me because, you know, Mr. Young made it quite clear. He said that they've secured an additional $38 billion in revenue and secured the future by restructuring Atlantic LNG. So out of the Dragon Gas, now we're looking at $38 billion in revenue to the Atlantic LNG. Go ahead.
I mean, Mikey, I could tell you that last week I went to the moon, you know, right? And the week before I climbed Mount Everest. But I would have to prove that. And this thing about the 38 billion is something which I have been following because last year the Prime Minister said that they had their negotiations and so on had realized $17 billion. When he was questioned about the value of his, or the efficacy of his traveling overseas, he said that they were able to realize an additional $17 billion. This was around April last year. And Prime Minister then, I'm going to say Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, former Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, opposition leader, of course, she had said, okay, well, we need to see where is that money. Now, Mark had asked a question in the Senate, asking the Minister of Energy to account for that $17 billion. When did it come? Who did it come from? Where can we find it in the records? Because government revenue is something which is transparent and something which you're able to prove and so on. That $17 billion that they were boasting and beating their chest about last year suddenly became $38 billion in the campaign of 2025. I suspect that $38 billion will become $100 billion in 2030. And around 2035, it might become $200 billion. Right? The government cannot make a claim like that without provide not a shred of evidence to substantiate that claim. No evidence. But of course, it's good politics. When you look at the revenue from the energy sector for the last 10 years, it is very difficult to understand where that $38 billion resides. You see, we've had high revenues from energy in 2022 and 2023, but that is because of price. So is the government taking credit for the high prices as a result of the Russia-Ukraine war? I mean, the government really has to be taking people for fools. I mean, explain the $38 billion. What years did it come? Did it come in 2020, 2021? Did it come, $7 billion this year, $6 billion this year? Did it come from the upstream? Did it come from the downstream? Energy taxation has many different types of taxes, but no detail. So if I have zero detail, then the government might as well say that, they're able to jump to the top of the moon or something like that, right? Because there's no proof. So that was one of the constant noises that we heard from the PNM in the campaign, that Stuart Young was able to get this additional $38 billion. But I don't believe it unless I see the evidence. I would love to have an opportunity to scrutinize the books in detail in the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Energy, and we may get to the bottom of it. But I think that we got some extra revenue in 2022 and 2023 because prices were high. And the other thing, Mikey, is if it is that, we got this $38 billion that we didn't expect to get, well, for God's sake, pay public servants more than 4% now. And why do we still have a deficit? We had a deficit of $10 billion in 2024, fiscal 2024. Why, if we're collecting all this extra, this super amount of revenue because you are some superstar negotiator, why do we still have a foreign exchange crisis? Because energy companies pay their taxes and royalties in US dollars. Right. So I should have seen the foreign reserves go up significantly, because 38 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars, right, is about 5.5 billion US dollars. So how is that not reflected in the foreign reserves? And the foreign reserves numbers keep going down. So to me, I have seen no evidence of the existence of that $38 billion, apart from the fact that we had high prices in 2022 and 2023 that caused energy revenues to be high. If that $38 billion was somewhere around, we would have no foreign exchange problem. You could have gone in the bank tomorrow, Monday, and asked for $1,000 US, and you got $1,000 US.
Yeah, well,
tomorrow
one
you
would
go in
think
the
so.
bank and you will get $200 US.
Yeah, well, one would think so, Mr. Amnarai, because he made it quite clear. He said that they were able to secure our future, that's the future of citizens, by restructuring Atlantic LNG, when did this whole restructuring take place?
Well, and the other thing is this. You can restructure Atlantic LNG whole day, whole night. You can restructure Atlantic LNG for and whatever. The fact is Atlantic LNG runs on natural gas. And the Atlantic LNG's production of LNG, liquefied natural gas, has come down by almost 50% in the last 10 years. So what is the point of restructuring, right? When you have LNG production collapsing, when you went from 230 odd cargoes a year of LNG to 130 cargoes in space of 10 years. At the rate at which we are going, we now have 3 trains running. We used to have 4. We might soon have 2 trains running in the not too distant future. And so what is the point of restructuring if it is you don't have gas to feed into those trains? So the point is moot. And I mean, speaking to persons in the industry, the restructuring really has not had any sort of advantage for the country because of the fact that we simply do not have the gas that we used to have. And we cannot escape that. I mean, Stuart Young could restructure the northern range. He could restructure the southern range. But the fact is that we don't have the natural gas to feed into Atlantic LNG as we used to have. And the root cause of this country's problems is the fact that natural gas production is down 34% and oil production is down 35% under this government. But yet they go on the platform and they say that they secure the future. Of course, they have to say that. And they have investments line. We always have the energy sector didn't start investing in Trinidad in September 2015, you know. Investments in the energy sector in Trinidad is an ongoing thing. BP and Shell invest every year, regardless of if Stuart Young is Prime Minister or Mrs. Bassad is Prime Minister or whoever. They have assets here and they have to keep investing. So a lot of what the PNM really had nothing to sell to the population in this election. Their crown jewel project, the Dragon project, of course, you know what happened to that. The Secretary of State, after he met Stuart Young in Jamaica and offered his condolences, the U.S. State Department and the Treasury Department revoked the licenses for Dragon, right? And I heard Stuart Young in St. Joseph the same night that we were in La Jolla last week, talking about his ability to talk to Marco Rubio and who do you want to take a call from a world leader at 2 a.m. in the morning. Well, I could tell you something. Anybody could talk to Marco Rubio. Anybody who is well educated, who understands diplomacy, who understands geopolitics. I mean, the universities of the world, they're only open for the PNM, right? There are a lot of highly qualified persons in the UNC, right? We had very distinguished ministers of foreign affairs and finance, and I don't want to beat my own chest, but I was in the Ministry of Energy and so on. So the UNC has the human resource capacity to run this country. I just posted something on Facebook. One of the main messages from the PNM platform in this election is that they are more capable and they are ordained by some higher force, apparently, to run this country, and that we are reckless and irresponsible, and they are red, ready, and responsible, and so on, right? And I wrote a 1,100-word article this morning, and I talked about the fact that when we were in government, this country has run a fiscal deficit for the last 15 or 16 years. With only 1 year, we had a surplus, and that was the year 2022, and that wasn't because of Mr. Embert's financial genius. It was because Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine.
Right.
But in the UNC era, between 2010 and 2015, yes, we had deficits. Yes, we had deficits, but our deficits were always under 5% of nominal GDP, which is what the IMF prescribes. right? So that's 5%, under 5% of nominal GDP is a healthy deficit, right? Under the PNM, between 2016 and 2024, there were 3 occasions when we went above 5%. 2016, 2019, and 2020. And I could forgive 2019 and 2020, of course, COVID and so on, right? Then people on the internet talking about saying that the UNC made no deposits in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Totally false. We made $1.2 billion in deposits in the HSF. The HSF, we met the HSF at $3 billion in 2010. We left it at 5.7.
Right.
And that's a growth of 90% in the HSF. So how is that being fiscally irresponsible? We manage the deficits to be under 5% of nominal GDP, which is a well-managed fiscal situation, right? We had, people forget this, and we sometimes forget, we had to manage the bailout of CLICO. The collapse of CLICO started in January 2009. 15 months later, we were in government. So we had to face the CLICO problem head on. Between 2010, Mrs. Prasad Bissasa's government, led by her, of course, and with her guidance, we had to manage the CLICO bailout between 2010 and 2015. And of course, that required, billions of dollars to be put into CLICO to save the country from what is called systemic risk, right? Because you had lots of people who had invested in CLICO, who had, annuities and so on in CLICO. There was something called the executive flexible annuity. And we had to grapple with that, and the UNC was able to stabilize CLICO. And today CLICO is paying back the government what it owes the government, and it's once again a stable, profit-making insurance company. So we had to deal with that. So this whole thing about UNC can't run the economy and the UNC reckless and irresponsible and so on, there's a lot of lies and myths.
Well, yeah, let's call it what it really is. It's a bunch of lies. No,
it's a bunch of lies.
He said that,
right?
Hold on. He said this entire restructuring has never happened anywhere in the world. What he's telling us.
How we know that?
Well, that's what
I spoke to people in the LNG industry globally, right? And they say, well, how he know that? Did he check? There's an LNG industry predating our LNG industry in Malaysia and Indonesia, and how does he know that has never happened anywhere else in the world? And at the end of the day, regardless of that boast, right? Because Mr. Manning knew a lot about oil and gas, but Mr. Manning was never boastful. He was never critical of the UNC between 95 and 2000. But we hear so many boasts that you would swear these people had 30, 40 years experience in the oil and gas industry prior to 2015, right? But here we are with our industry, which is struggling. We have so many plants have closed in Point Lisa. We have Atlantic Train 1 was one of the black marks on the legacy of the Rowley administration. We have the two remaining trains operating at 60% or under.
Right.
And the country is really struggling because the energy sector is struggling. As a result, the economy has contracted by 17% in the last 9 years. We've had the energy sector at the heart of that contraction itself contracted 31%. So when they come and they tell the population, vote for us because we are better suited, we are so savvy and sophisticated, and the UNC and they are primitive people and so on. That is all a myth. Because we've done it before. We had, as I said, when we ran this country between 2010 and 2015, you would agree with me, the economy was stable, the economy was growing. We attained, under Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, we had obtained our highest ever GDP in the year 2014. We were able to bail out CLICO and stabilize CLICO. We had low inflation. Food prices were not running away between 2010 and 2015. Our industrial base from Point Lisa to Point Fortin did not fall apart. Everything was operating when I left office. Right? And the country, we had investor confidence in the country. The private sector, the local private sector was confident in the country. They could have spoken to ministers. Ministers would give them an audience and listen to what they had to say. Right? We were working on debottlenecking the ease of doing business and the requirements for all these licenses and approvals and so on. So the country has reached a point tomorrow's election, and we need a fresh wind to blow through this country. And I think I want to tell you, the private sector is very much waiting for that fresh wind, because, I mean, they know that the UNC government from 95 to 2001 was very supportive of and facilitative of private sector expansion. The UNC government of 2010 to 2015, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, was very facilitative of private sector investment and expansion, and we will be again. And to get this country going, to get this country to wake up and begin to move again, we have to get our local private sector excited about Trinidad and Tobago. Currently, they're excited, but they're not excited about Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, you're right.
They're excited about Guyana. They're excited about Suriname. They're excited about Barbados. And they're excited about the United States. So we have to get them excited
let me ask you something here before we wrap up. He also said that he secured on our behalf $56.5 billion of foreign direct investment in the energy sector alone. And he told the audience, do not listen to the lies coming from the other side when they said that nothing was done by the PNM. $56.5 billion.
Well, as I said, $56.5 billion. Let's say that is 9 billion US dollars. On average, the energy sector in Trinidad, on an average year, spends about 1.5 billion US dollars in this economy. So that is really par for the course. I mean, I could go back to 2015 and look at all the projects that I left, all the deep water drilling that I left on the table. I mean, I could look at the Mitsubishi project in Labrador, that was $1 billion US dollars. I could look at the value of the deep water drilling program, which we left on the desk of the Ministry of Energy, Minister of Energy in 2015, and we could come up with probably a bigger figure than that. And the point is that investment in the energy sector by multinationals is enormous. So what he is boasting about there is nothing spectacular. Companies always invest because they have to keep drilling to get oil and gas coming out of the ground. The government has very little to sell to the country. In this election, the PNM, I would say, has very little to sell to the country. So they had to come up with all these things, 38 billion that came, we don't know where that comes from, if it really exists. I mean, I would be happy if they could show us some evidence as to where I could find that in what is called the draft estimates of revenue, or also known as yellow books, right? And the investment that is coming in the energy sector, I mean, again, I hope the government is not counting the egg in the fowl belly, as they did with the dragon egg, right? As they did with dragon, which, I mean, we hope it happens.
Yeah.
Right? One day, but given the current geopolitical climate in the world and in the hemisphere, it may not happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right? So that is where we are. They really had very little to tell the country, apart from the fact that, in their opinion, they are better suited to run the country. And I can tell you that Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar has done it before. 2010 to 2015, we had, I would say we had excellent people running the country 2010 to 2015. Trinidad and Tobago has very bright people. And many of these bright people, will be called on to help run the country. I don't want to speak on behalf of the incoming Prime Minister, but I know that she will be able to find these people and to help run the state boards. They are critical state boards. There are some state boards that are more significant to the country than ministries. You have to put your best and your brightest there. You know, I could think about the NGC. I could think about TSTT. You know, I could think about UDCOT. I could think about HTC and so on. But this country has bright and highly qualified people who are not necessarily PNN. So the PNN doesn't have a monopoly on brain power, intellect, and talent in Trinidad and Tobago. And we've demonstrated that in 95 to 2001, and we demonstrated that again in 2010 to 2015, and we'll do it again.
All right.
Right? So I look forward to tomorrow's election. I will be voting very early in the morning, Mikey. Right? I plan to go at 6 a.m. and vote in the morning, and I want to thank you, Mickie K, for everything you did in this election season. You were very good in those meetings that you had to chair. You know, you were very professional, and your voice was very soothing, and I think you brought a sort of aura of professionalism and calm to the platform. And I think I really wanted the opportunity to thank you publicly for what you did in this election.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out this evening to link with us and clearing the air on that issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mikey, and let's look forward to good things tomorrow. Take care.
All right. So there you have it, folks. Former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarang clearing the air on this additional $38 billion. And he made a very strong point. He said that, well, if you have this, you know, this cash flow now, you have this free fall that just came out from nowhere, unexpectedly, then now you can start settling a lot of these labor negotiations. You can start dealing with the Forex crisis and all of these issues that are affecting especially the business sector in Trinidad and Tobago. But that hasn't started. There's just conversation and just wishful thinking on behalf of the government that these things will come. So $38 billion, and I'm sure the first thing that came to your mind was, that's what's going on in the energy sector, although Petrotrin has been shut down, and we simply have not been functioning well, and here it is, we hitched our economic future to Dragon Gas, and that in itself has fallen flat. So again, what is being said on these campaign trails, what is being said on these platforms, on the eve of the election, we're looking at it, we are going to try to dissect a lot of things that have been said and what's taking place. We're going to take a short break, come right back. We'll be speaking to political analyst, Dr. Indira Rampersad, right here on The Observer when we come back.
The Excel brand delivers quality service.
I would recommend Omega Excel to everyone.
Take care of yourself, take care of your health with Omega Excel.
If Omega Excel works for me, it will work for you.
Over a period of time, I started feeling stronger in my knee where I could add more pressure.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 King Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air. For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Aruca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland. Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after-sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you. When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now, 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Limiting chronic inflammation is important for so many conditions that occur.
I had a lot of pain 4 years ago.
I used to have pain in my knees, in my hip.
Taking it for arthritis.
Mickie K saved my life.
Then I started to realize, well, hey, I could use my hands, I don't have any pain.
All in all, I am pleased to say that Omega XL has worked.
Is this on floor?
107. We are on. Thank you so much, Master Control. Joining us is a lady who is no stranger to our program. Let me say a pleasant good evening to Dr. Indira Ramprasad, political analyst. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Mickie K. How are you?
Well, I'm a lot better hearing your voice, I tell you that. It's always good to have you on to give us that insightful perspective of, what are we looking at and what's going to unfold. And I'm sure everyone on the eve of this election really and truly wants to know how things are expected to turn out tomorrow. But I won't put you in that hot seat, not as yet. Perhaps tomorrow evening I'll give you a call, or maybe Tuesday. But what I would want to ask you is that we just had former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine on, and we discussed about this $38 billion additional in revenue that was announced yesterday by Prime Minister Stuart Young. And of course, Mr. Ramnarine said that he doesn't understand where this figure is coming from. Even if the restructuring of Atlantic LNG, the resources are still not there. And if there is this windfall of money, perhaps then they can start looking at the Forex crisis and, of course, dealing with a lot of the union, that is taking place, union deliberations that are taking place. But that's not happening, wage negotiations. So on the platform, a lot is being said. What can we read from this?
Did you say $38 billion?
$38 billion in revenue, according to Mr. Young. Secure the future by restructuring Atlantic LNG. He said that this has never happened anywhere in the world. Now that's the part that gets me a bit scared. It has never happened before in the world. We heard that years ago with the World Gas to Liquid project, when we know for a fact that it was sold, that it's something that has a track record, a proven track record, but it has never happened before in the world. So we're hearing that again. And according to Mr. Ramnarine, how does he know it has never happened before in the world? Compounded with the fact that we were told that they secured on behalf of the citizens $56.5 billion of foreign direct investment in the energy sector alone. Mr. Ramnarine said, well, there's always people waiting to invest in the energy sector. And if you're talking about secure, then you need to tell us what projects go hand in hand with this $56.5 billion. So he was able to debunk that and say, listen, it just doesn't add up.
Just lost your voice.
Oh, sorry. He was able to debunk that and say, listen, these figures just simply do not add up.
Okay, so this is my take on it, Mickie K. We are in what you would call a silly season. And you would hear, are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
And you would hear a lot of silly things. So this might be beyond the silly. This is incredulous. You see, when you're making promises, when you're desperate times call for desperate measures.
when you're desperate, when you didn't perform efficiently and effectively in 10 years, when the crime reach out, to such a level, when a prime minister demits, in the eve of a general election, as prime minister, but remains as political leader and appears in a platform, when an old cabinet remains there for the most part, a few new candidates are selected, but the same Minister of National Security has been appointed as Prime Minister, and the same Minister of National Security is actually proposing a bold new chapter. Implicit in that new chapter suggests that there was an old chapter, which certainly didn't work. So there's an admission there, and a tacit admission that it didn't work. So then you have to come with some kind of lofty promises to convince the population or persuade the electorate to vote for you. And it would take, I think, it would take a certain psyche of an electorate to believe those lofty promises, which, are so incredulous, and more so that if all of this income was possible, this revenue was possible, if it was possible to explore this, since he became prime minister in 5 weeks or less, and you were able to get all these $1 billion for the country, and you were in that cabinet, why couldn't you have advised your cabinet and head of cabinet, who was a former prime minister at the time, to explore these options so that the citizens wouldn't suffer the hardship and endure the pain that they have in the last 10 years? Why now? Are these just election promises? And I started off by saying it is a silly season, and we hear a lot of silly things. So I think this is certainly
and I want to
one of
agree.
them.
I want to agree with you. I mean, one would have thought that on the platform we would be hearing from the incumbent. I mean, a track record that has, would be highlighted by so much that they have done, they have implemented, where they can actually point to the average citizen and say that we were able to elevate your life from this to that. But we're talking about a backdrop where the economists is saying, listen, the middle class has been wiped out. Job opportunities are very scarce. Young people are graduating from universities with a lot of degrees and all eager to have the experience, but there are no jobs available. Has that not been focused into this equation, or is it all about seeing how best they can sell us false hope rather than dealing with the raw reality?
And it also suggests that they take the electorate, they don't believe that the electorate are independent thinkers or that they're thinkers at all, that to some extent they take them for fools, So the other thing that they're doing, it's a very negative and defensive campaign. They basically behaving as though the UNC was in power for the last 10 years. And sometimes they're going back to 2010 to 2015 to attack the UNC when they were in power. They held the reins to the coffers, to control of the treasury. They were in charge. So to campaign as though the opposition was in power, again, I am wondering about the psyche of the population that they think they're hoping to reach. So what I can conclude about this, if I may just make a statement here, is that they're still speaking to the flock. They're speaking to the diehard PNM, or we would say PNM till I then. Who would buy it all? Who would buy it all? Who would probably swallow it all? But because they're desperate to secure the base, and in politics and in life generally, if you don't have a solid foundation or a solid base, then the whole pyramid collapses.
Yeah.
So that is what I think they're really scared of, that the base themselves will defect. I have to tell you that I was at the rally yesterday, both rallies. I went to, as a political scientist, to check out the PNM rally and the UNC rally. PNM when I went first, and about 5:30 p.m. I noticed a lot of people were leaving, and they were hopping in maxi taxis and going their way, more likely home. And this was early, and I was wondering why. And what I noticed, though, that it was a homogeneous, ethnically homogeneous crowd there. It's predominantly Afro-Trinidadian, South Afro-Trinidadian descent, and this is by no means a racist comment on my part. This is an observation. And when I went a little later on to the UNC campaign, there was broad, diversity, ethnic diversity crowd. That crowd was extremely diverse. I've never seen such a diverse crowd in a UNC meeting. So that's an interesting dynamic that would play off. So PNM, I think, has been trying to consolidate that group, reach that group, but that group may not be enough to win a general election because, as we know, you have to reach the others, you have to reach non-voters, you have to reach floating voters, and you have to reach, mixed voters of all ethnic descent to be able to win those marginal constituencies in particular. Because I do think they more than likely will hold on to their safe seats, both parties, but those marginal constituencies is where the election will turn.
Yeah, now, my takeaway from this, I want you to weigh in on this, of course, is the tone of the opposition leader's speech yesterday. Let's take away all the fireworks and all the flags and all that, made up that audience, the excitement and what have you. But it was as if she was speaking to not just the undecided, but people who say, listen, I don't want to get involved, this is not for me. I don't hear politicians talking things that are real. They are not in sync with what is taking place with us in our lives. They're totally out of our element. And she made it quite clear. She said, listen, I accept that my body appears old now. It looks small and frail. But inside this body is the mind and heart of a mother that is filled with love. A mother to all of you. Was I perfect? No, I wasn't. And I humbly say sorry to my loyal rank and file UNC membership for that. I did make mistakes. You usually don't hear this. You'll hear a lot of talk, you'll hear pecan, you'll hear all that. But to talk directly, as if looking into the mirror and saying, listen, I am not perfect by far. I am not perfect. I'm small. I look frail. Perhaps you question that. Perhaps you have this, these things reserved in your psyche as if whether or not I have what it takes to do the job. But I'm telling you now, yes, I recognize this, but I also have the expertise, the know-how, the will, the commitment, the dedication to get the job done when it comes to serving you. Now, is this something that is new? I mean, we usually don't hear it. What say you?
And this is a masterful stroke. This is a masterful stroke to the ordinary person, to the middle class person, to the rich, to the poor, to the non-voter, to the floating voter. This is who I am. So I think it was a message that was coming from the heart. She could have added, though, that despite my frail body, my brain is working well, and we could have seen that just from the speech. And I believe she wrote that speech herself because it was coming, it was coming from her heart. So she was making this appeal to the population that no matter what, and she also used the term love several times, Mickie K, in that speech, which she uses in the platform and those town hall meetings often. But she keep reminding the population that she's always loved them. So she is making an emotional appeal to them to make a sensible decision, because no matter what, we're all humans, we make mistakes, but she's basically tried her best. I think that is what she was saying. She's basically tried her best, even if she's not perfect.
Yeah. And she goes on, of course, to say, yes, my body has aged from the years of battering, bruising, humiliation, ridicule, abuse, and insults. She said, I've been called the worst thing anyone can be called. I've been called jammet, drunk, dog, and every nasty word in between. She said, however, she acknowledged that despite the harshness of the political battlefield, she has never become bitter. That says something, meaning that she has never lost focus. Because on one hand, you heard yesterday that Dr. Rowley said, listen, Mr. Young is the better man because he looks better. His appearance is better. You know, youthful and you know, wild-spirited. But on the other hand, you hear leaders saying, listen, yeah, I've you know, Father Time has taken some lashes at me. I've taken some hits. I've taken some bumps and some bruises, but I'm still standing tall. I mean, to actually come out and say those words that you have been described, and you know, you've seen yourself, your loved ones, your family, they would have been hurt by it, but you didn't reject it. You simply said, listen, after all is said and done, I still remain who I am. I'm not bitter.
There are two dimensions to this that I want to discuss. Dr. Rowley is talking about Mr. Young looking better, but how is Dr. Rowley looking as a political leader standing in that platform there? As a political leader, okay, and as a prime minister who just had to resign, probably was forced to resign. So how is he looking? Believe 75 years old or more, and standing there and talking about looks. Is politics about looks? So that's one question we want to ask. Is the politics really about how the leader looks? And the second point I want to make is that, and you mentioned it, is that I think she has kept, that this is Kamala Persad-Bissessar, has kept remarkably focused throughout her political career. She's been through numerous internal elections where her own position as political leader of the UNC was challenged by stalwarts in her own party. Some of them are still there, some of them left. Several times she's had to face the fire of dissenters, or dissidents as we call them. And from what we saw yesterday in that crowd, Mickie K, I think that crowd was 2 to 3 times bigger than that of the PNM, because I also think the Arangways Savannah is bigger than that of Belly Heart, the ground itself. The PNM had a large crowd, but I think the UNC one was massive. And to command that kind of crowd in the wake of everything that has happened in the last few years, since 2015, throughout COVID, and particularly in the last few months, I think that is a phenomenal achievement in itself, no matter what the results are. I think the UNC fought a very, very, positive, vibrant, and energetic battle, a very professional campaign. You know, I was just looking at how they were dressed yesterday in this sort of uniform, very, very, formal, professional look. And I look at the stage, and the stage was just amazing, that stage. And I told myself, not only are the finances coming forward to support the UNC financially, but that they have developed a level of professionalism which has added to the momentum that they have achieved in this election campaign. Now, we don't know the outcome of all of this. I always say crowds don't win elections, because we still have tomorrow and the election day machinery to deal with and to analyze and to see how the parties are able to bring out their ground voters. But I really think that it was an amazing campaign in the wake of all that she's faced and all the negativities that's come her way in the recent and not so recent past.
Yeah, I want to agree with you there, definitely. But time is not, time is up on us, but I'll give you a few minutes, closing comments. Go right ahead.
So it's been an interesting campaign with some unprecedented dynamics, with now a prime minister who is not a political leader. I think that is confusing the population, and particularly the PNM supporters to some extent. Today I am hearing the rhetoric of change, that many want change. I think we would need to see what happened in some of the seats, apart from apart from Tunapuna, San Fernando West, Moruga we want to look at because that's a narrow victory there. I think the UNC will retain Chaguanas East, Pointe-a-Pierre, which is now Claxton Bay, and I think the UNC can also rest St. Joseph. And you asked me not to predict too much, but I do think that there was a very well organized campaign in St. Joseph by Mr. Devish Mirage. So I think the PNM, with the burden of incumbency and poor performance in the last 10 years, I think that they have the work cut out for them. Not that the UNC can sit in its laurels and expect, that it's just going to be an automatic victory. I think they work the ground as well, but the election day machinery for both parties will be very, very important.
I agree with you. It boils down to that at this moment. I mean, all that was needed to take care of has been taken care of. This is it. It's like you're practicing for a game. The coach can be on the sideline screaming as loud as he or she wants, but this is it. You're in the game, so there's only so much you can do. And now we wait to see what happens with the election day machinery, how enthusiastic people are, also not just by casting their vote, but by also going out after they've casted their vote and bringing other people and assisting and volunteering. So all of this we have to look at, and you are correct. Hopefully I'll be speaking to you, if not tomorrow, on Tuesday, and we'll be catching up on the results. Thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure, and it has been a pleasure having to speak with you during this campaign here on The Observer.
Thank you so much, Mickie K. It was my pleasure as well.
Thank you. So there you have it, folks. Political scientist, Dr. Indira Ramprasad, weighing on the issue. Yesterday was such a personal speech done by the opposition leader, and I do agree, of course, reaching out to those, not just, I don't know if people are still sitting on the fence at this point in time. I think their minds are made up. But anyhow, folks, don't forget, our bodies are under stress, from environmental toxins to work stress to poor food choices and low nutrients in the food we eat. Our bodies are under a lot of stress, and all of these can lead to high inflammation levels. Excessive inflammation can lead to a large number of health problems that cause pain and damage to the body. What do? You pick up your bottle of Omega XL. It has 3 fatty acids to help the body reduce inflammation. So get your bottle of Omega 3 today. It is on the market, best supplement on the market today. I have an open letter. I'm going to read some stuff before I open the lines because I want to hear from you on the outside, and we'll be touching base with someone. Hopefully they're on the road still, so give us an idea as we wrap up. This is an open letter to the Commonwealth Observers. I'll read some of it for you in between. There says, as a citizen who believes in democracy and inshallah, who will be voting in the upcoming elections carded for the April 28, 2025 in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, I am observing the response of the EBC to queries and concerns raised by the opposition UNC party and its representatives, which leaves me quite unsettled. Firstly, let me say that I was taken aback by the response of Mrs. Narcissus Scope to the concerns and queries raised by Ms. Wendy Lewis on April 15th. Mrs. Narcissus Scope must certainly recognize that she's not acting on behalf of herself or any singular body, but is acting on behalf of the people of this country. Her dismissive tone was extremely poor, to say the least. Mrs. Narcissus Scope should further acknowledge that Ms. Wendy Lewis is a direct customer of the EBC and represents a legitimate political party, which represents the voices of a significant number of citizens by way of membership and or votes. For the goodly lady from EBC to seemingly attempt to canvass Ms. Lewis' concerns under a banner of lack of knowledge is an attempt to me to inject early bias in the minds of the population against any and all concerns raised by Ms. Lewis, notwithstanding how legitimate and serious they may be in helping to secure our democracy. Allow me to underscore the term our democracy, not Mrs. Narcissus Scope's democracy, not Wendy Lewis' democracy, but PNM's, No, not PNM's, not UNC's democracy, but the democracy of all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But nothing screams how inconsequential the confidence of the people is in the electoral process than the EBC's own nonchalant response to concerns raised about an EBC-appointed returning officer who reportedly became flustered during a sealing process of a special elector's box. It is public space that the said returning officer did not only use the correct sign-off form, but reportedly did not seal the special voter's box in the immediate presence of all political parties' representatives. Again, the EBC's dismissive response to the events of the day seems to suggest that being flustered is an adequate excuse to electoral discrepancies. Surely, it cannot be that our democracy has been reduced to a training ground for the flustered. I wish to remind our Commonwealth observers that my concerns are not without merit, and in this regard, I wish to point out a matter that was in our courts where it ruled that the EBC acted outside of its remit by extending the voting time in a previous general election. Needless to say, there was no decision by the court to return to the polls, and sadly, today we are bearing the course of that decision or non-decision, as the case may be. So the above, together with other subsequent queries and concerns raised in the public domain, including the delivery of polling cards to persons who have long died, lend little comfort to the integrity of the process leading up to elections. Where's the voice of the people? Our voting day will be upon us the next few hours, and I, as a voter who only has the power of one vote, I'm left feeling uncomfortable and disturbed. I now wonder what was in that special voter's box or other such boxes, and what other questionable flustered activities took place or are taking place in the lead-up to the April 28th. I question the relationship between the EBC and the ruling PNM, given recent comments by a former MP on a political platform when he spoke to "we realizing the election results of the public." So, very important. And of course, it goes on to say, I ask these questions to you because I do not believe that my democracy is a process in academia or a simple report of elections is over. I want to believe that you are here to support fundamental democratic principles and outcomes. Help me believe it. As given in the foregoing, I have little or no faith in those who were uniquely appointed to do so. Simply a citizen of and voter in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Take a short break, come back, we're going to open the lines. I'm going to read something to you as well from my good friend, Mr. Ken Alley, and touch base with someone if they're still out there. So we'll open the lines as soon as we return right here on The Observer.
The Excel brand delivers quality service.
I would recommend Omega Excel to everyone.
Take care of yourself, take care of your health with Omega Excel.
If Omega Excel works for me, it will work for you. Over a period of time, I started feeling stronger in my knee where I could add more pressure.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 King Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air. For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets. blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
And we're back. And the numbers are 225-9790, 225-9790. And if you want to make a WhatsApp call, 494-0938, 494-0938. Get on the inside. Who do we have? Good evening. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mikey. Good afternoon to you and everybody out there. Mikey, I was so anxious I could have sworn to say you up the lines.
Yeah,
anyway, Mikey, yeah, we're on the home stretch. Just a few hours again to go. It's nail biting. We worked hard, and I want to congratulate you and Andy and Lennox, even TC and Evie, everybody who were involved in pushing this forward, in pushing us to get this election going, right? I want to thank everybody. Mikey, it was hard work. It was a lot of hard work, and we made it this far. And I'm praying hard and praying that we make it tomorrow. I want to remind people about something, Andy and Mikey. Now, first to begin, when you go, if you don't have ballot paper, no problem. Go to the mock station, let them make one for you, right? But you would not get any trouble in voting. But if you are not registered, you would not be able to vote, right? This is why all the time we have been pushing him on the ground report, pushing, getting them. When EBC started advertising, I came on and was reminding people, checking in, check a city, check whatever, right? Now, please, very careful. Make ballot paper is signed. We saw what happened in Moruga. Because of one ballot paper, somebody not signing it, although the person had voted. Make sure it is signed. We have to be our own observers, Mikey, right? We have to be. Now, when you go in there, make sure, test out the stamp on the paper that's given there. And then put your X in the middle. Make sure it's in the middle. And make sure it is dry before you fold it. We don't want any spoiled ballots. Please, let us avoid the spoiled ballots. And I would suggest that don't use a pen. Because you know, some people like to use a pen. Use the stamp that they're giving you before anything happens. And please, UNC people, go out and support your PEP, COP, and COP candidate. COP candidate, love candidate. I'm appealing to you all to go out and support the UNC candidate in your areas. Now, Lennox is under the banner of the UNC. So, love supporters, please come out and support all right through it is. And please, people, only be very careful. Do not allow them to have anything to want to say because this or because that. You know how things going. Right? And all those, but I made arrangements. I sent names, a couple of names to PEP, right? And other people that help people, you know, elderly people want to go out and vote. And the disabled, Mikey, they're very adamant to go out and vote in this election, right? They want to go out, especially when Donna Cox did to them. They want to go out there and vote. So names were sent to them. I'm reminding the people, I'm going to call them early in the morning and remind them, please don't forget these people. And Mikey, again, I'm going to say, when UNC and the accommodation win, everybody wins. And I am listening to this $38 billion that Stuart Young found. Who he fooling? We have Kevin Randall, we have an economist there. Counting that amount of money. But Stuart Young is so convinced that we have this kind of money and asking us to help the PNM save this country? No. We are going to save this country with Mrs. Prasad Bissessa and the accommodation. Thanks a lot, Mikey.
Thank you.
And have a good night. Take care.
Yeah. Next caller, you've been holding on. Good evening. Welcome.
Hey, good evening, Mikey. To the full here, brother.
Good evening. Good evening.
Great program, and all these people that you interviewed. Professional people, and I think the country, if people want to be swayed how to vote, they should listen condition in terms of my health.
Mm.
Serious thing, Mikey, that I couldn't imagine the rally because I was just the possibility that something could have happened to me in terms of my health, and I could have been hospitalized and whatnot, so because I have to be very concerned with my respiratory breathing and other ailments that arose from the vaccine.
Right.
So, Mikey, to update, you see, this woman, Dr. Mariam Abdul Richard, that is Patricia's daughter-in-law. Remember, she was promoted to head of NITCO, I think it is? Yeah?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So this is the reward that they get. And then this next Parashram was put to head some committee, to represent Trinidad on international forum where health and things is concerned, apart from the national awards that they get and all that. So it just goes to show you, and in fact with NITCO, there's a lot of conspiracy with respect to the procurement and what have you and what not, Mikey. But these people, they don't care, they have no shame, they will just accept whatever reward and whatever position is bestowed onto them. But Mikey, I want to come to the position with Mr. Kevin Ramarai. When we talk about that $38 billion and then $56 billion thing, what we're seeing here is a repeat of a similar situation where the almost $3 billion cannot be accounted for by the Auditor General. And then you have the Minister of Finance now, Dan Paul, saying that, there's no money missing and what have you. But there is no information, no details, nothing is provided to verify whether the money was missing or not. Understand? And here it is now. We have a similar situation where Stuart Young is saying that this money that they received as a consequence of the oil and gas thing and whatnot cannot be accounted for because we have not seen any proof or what have you. Sure. Understand this, Mikey? Sure. Yeah. So therefore it leaves to wonder where this is. I think this is fraud. These people is misbehaving in public office. You're lying to the population. It is fraud. And they ought to be investigated. But I want to tell people one thing. With the jab, with the vaccine, Mikey, there was a lot of millions of dollars was given to this country, this government, and in the desperation for money, they forced people to take the vaccine. But they were so thirsty for money that millions of dollars from other WHO and other sources, and they were glad for that. And they forced this vaccine upon the people. And today I am glad that Michael and Saturday, the Cement and Waterfall Workers Union, NATO, will be taking up this matter. And that when Kamala Prasad and the new government form, we have to investigate everything. Mikey, these fellas can't just get away, They have to make jail because they have defrauded this country of billions of dollars, money that cannot be accounted for. And they continue to lie to the population, even at the last day on the eve of election. Mike, have a good day, brother.
Thank you so much. Yes, the lines are open. 225-9790, 225-9790, or if you want to make a WhatsApp call, 494-0938. Master Joe, we do have some advisories for tomorrow. This was sent out by a friend of mine, and if you can put some up so we can share with the public, especially young people who are going out for the first time. Questions prior to voting. If you have any questions prior to voting, or if you wish to give a report on any issues you may have seen or experienced, just visit your mock station. Your mock station will be located not too far away. If you don't know where the mock station is located, just ask. Protect our democracy. Let me take this call. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Yes, go ahead.
You say that you have to keep the fire burning until you leave those to them so that the party has the election machinery all set and ready to go. You must put an end to this negativity for the last 9 years of the witnesses. I cannot for the life of me understand why they feel one so that people could run this country only. and he rejected also. So you'd have a trifecta defeat going forward because anybody he chooses to only to serve his interests at the end of the day. How the country will hear that and move along and give the UNC, the United National Community, opportunity to run this country for the next 5 years and beyond. And one more thing, Mickie K, I pointed it and Anita Haynes and showing up there. When she turned up for screening at the UNC, then Senator Mali didn't turn up for screening, so we know that he was going in the next direction. But Anita Haynes turned up for screening, and she went there. I don't know what's the reason for that. It shows a bit of naivety on her part. And I'm real sure to that at the end of the day. You could say something on that. I don't know about no more information more than that. I am disappointed.
So am I. Thank you so much. You're so correct. So correct. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let us continue. Master Control. Now remember, be vigilant. Check your ballot paper before going into the voting booth. Again, check your ballot paper before going into the voting booth. Ensure that your ballot paper is signed by the deputy presiding officer in your presence. I want to repeat that. Ensure that your ballot paper is signed by the deputy presiding officer in your presence before voting. In your presence before voting. Go ahead. Putting your X on the ballot paper next to your candidate. When you enter the voting booth, you can either 1, stamp your ballot paper, or 2, use a pen to place your X. If you use the stamp, ensure that the ink has dried before folding the paper. Blow on the ink if needed. Again, ensure that the ink has dried before folding the paper. Blow on the ink if needed. If you use the pen, you must place an X. Only an X. Only an X. Go ahead. Be confident. If you are unsure about who your candidate is, look for one of the symbols that are shown here on your ballot paper and place your X next to it. We're looking at the UNC, COP, or PEP. If you still feel the need to confirm, visit the mock station not too far from the station where you will be voting. Again, be confident. If you are unsure about who your candidate is, look for one of the symbols shown here on your ballot paper and place your X next to it. Yes, Master Control. Thank you so much. And those are some tips, of course, that we wanted to share with you, clear some things up to make sure that you have full clarity going tomorrow when you go to vote. Also, yesterday was definitely a big day, Master Control. Give me something that, the political leader would have said in the UNC.
This election is about your right to live safely. This election is about your dreams. Live your dreams boldly. For you and your families to thrive freely in this land, this blessed land, Trinbago, we call home. For 10 years, you have carried the heavy burden of a PNM government that told you to survive on less, but they raised their own salaries. It was a government that wants to cut your pensions, but increase their own. This was a government that has treated your struggles like an irritation, because when you spoke about your problems, they said you are bad talking them. And while they dance, they sweep, they joke and mock you. They mock your pains. The quality of life for all our citizens continues to decline. Today, a family is grieving another family today because 3 sisters were victims of a home invasion yesterday, where 2 of the sisters were raped and the other beaten. These sisters, 25, 21, 19, terrorized, beaten, raped, robbed inside their own home. 3 young women were mentally, emotionally, and physically tortured in their own home for hours. Maybe some of you don't care because it's not your wife, it's not your sister, it's not your daughter, not your niece. But today, I tell you, the rain is falling on that family's house. But tomorrow, if the PNM remains in office, that rain will fall on your house. So we have to come out on Monday and vote them out. Come out on Monday and vote them out.
Thank you, Master Control. Come out tomorrow and vote them out. I want to read you something from my friend Ken Ali, veteran journalist. Headline, Suffering Makes Us One. Black Stalin sang, Suffering Makes Us One. This general election campaign is arguably the first in modern Trinidad and Tobago to be heavily influenced by urgent class issues and not swayed by ethnic glory. Yes, various political platforms advocated working class causes through the years. With varying degrees of success, there were Arthur Andrew Cipriani almost 100 years ago, the Workers' and Farmers' Party in 1966, and United Labour Front in 1976. But the pressing issues of 2025 have created a new pain, leading to unity and hope among the working masses. Attending several political rallies and speaking to a wide cross-section of people confirmed that, indeed, suffering makes us one. I witnessed solidarity and outrage over the sharp and steady decline in the quality of life of common people, both on platforms and in mass crowds. There was anguish over the poor getting poorer, while the slim minority takes in billion-dollar corporate profits. Small operators bemoan that biased allocation of foreign exchange, along with oppressive banking conditions, put thousands out of business. The masses lamented widespread job losses, middle-class ruin, wage freezes, an increase in contract employment, and of course, an unbearable cost of living. Some noted the government's appeal to the industrial court for injunctions to block worker protests. That threw my mind to the removal of the industrial court president after 1% employers groused about pro-worker verdicts. The current leaders made it worse with their doublespeak on WASA job losses, along with secret privatization of the city port and insistence on divesting Petrotrin to a scandal-ridden multinational. Labourman Ansel Roger summed it up as an obscene display of arrogance. I can't recall another time of such spirited togetherness inspired by common distress and a collective optimism that political change offers, as Stalin sang movingly, sufferers only want to hear where the next food coming from. Suffering makes us one. And that's what we saw yesterday in Aranguez. I mean, standing out from the vantage point I had and looking at it, I said to myself, nobody there was concerned about who was from Laventille or who was from Barrackpore, who was from St. Joseph or who was from Williamsville. It didn't matter. Everyone was there because of a common cause, and that was to save the beloved Twin Island Republic. The person to the right or the left, it didn't matter to their ethnicity. The mere fact that they showed up, that they were there, proved one thing and one thing only, that in the majority, we can send a strong message that this country does not belong to any political party. And it doesn't belong to people who believe that because of our ethnicity, that we need to be affiliated with any party, because when they do see you like that, they treat you the way they see you. Yesterday, all optical illusions was dismantled. People came out. Trinbagonians came out. Patriots were present. Give me another clip, please, Master Control, before we wrap up here and make our way out. I know tomorrow I want to get some rest so I can be up early to do my civic duty. Go right ahead.
What the UNC and our coalition partners, what we are willing to do, that they will not do. And some of that is to give you a fair wage for a fair day's work, to give you your back pay, to give you standing your ground laws, to give you legal firearms. Consider all the people-centered policies and projects the UNC did for you in just 5 years, and what the PNM could have done for you in 10 years, but they never did. Consider the comparisons in the backgrounds, in the experiences, in the abilities, in the personalities of your candidate of choice. And the clear decision is that united coalition of interests, the UNC and I, are best suited to take care of you and your family.
Folks, that brings us to the end of our program. It's been a pleasure as always. We heard from Michael Anisette, General Secretary of NATU. We heard from political scientist Dr. Indira Rampersad, as well as former Energy Minister Kevin Ramlarine. I'm making my way out. As always, the action has started. The change, of course, will come when we get the results tomorrow. Until then, be safe out there, keep observing, and keep standing for your country. Have a good night, and God bless.
Observer. Mickie K, Mickie K, Mickie K, Mickie K. The Observer.